All right, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Friday here in the great city of Chicago. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Everybody stays safe. Everybody's staying healthy. Everybody's staying socially distant from each other. Everybody's using hand sanitizers, masks, and not talking to anyone too close. I think I got all of that out of the way. Welcome to Chicago Music Revealed. I'm Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, chicagojazz.com, and I have to mention also the director of programming and entertainment at the soon-to-be opening Epiphany Center for the Arts there on Ashland and Adams. And we are going to be announcing a whole slew of shows coming up starting in September. So stay tuned. Of course, get all of the information at epiphanyshy.com. We are working on a lot of safety measures, a lot of COVID safety measures, and we are working with the city of Chicago. We have a very important health person coming on staff as well. So we're doing everything correctly, and we hope to have live music happening very soon. So epiphanyshy.com for all of the information in regards to the opening. We'd love to see you there, and hopefully we'll see somebody somewhere in person. Now, today it is a very special show because obviously we always do Friday. It's Chicago Blues and Beyond with a special guest host, Dave Katzman. And Dave Katzman is on the line, and we have a very, very, very special guest. The great Billy Flynn is joining us on the line as well. Billy, how are you?
Doing pretty good, thank you.
Excellent. I'm so excited to have you on. And Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. It's great. I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah. Well, we're back for another Blues and Beyond here on Chicago Music Revealed. And, we've been hitting it out of the park here, thanks to Dave Katzman. We've had Toronzo Cannon on the phone, on the Skype. And no one can forget that because Toronzo Skyped us while he was driving around in his car. So that was a very interesting interview. Not surprising for Toronzo. It was very interesting, though. And then we've had the great Joanna Connors on. And
Bob Stroger.
Bob Stroger was on. That's right. And, of course, Jimmy Johnson was on. Great interview with Jimmy Johnson. And before Billy Branch. That's you're exactly right. Billy Branch as well. And now
we have Billy Flynn.
Billy Flynn, the great Billy Flynn. So, Dave, normally you and I co-host together, and normally we're on Skype or we're doing different things. Now everybody's on the phone today except for me, but I think this is going to work out well because everybody can hear this. This will be on a podcast, and of course everyone listening is able to listen. So unfortunately you can't see Dave Katzman driving around in a car while he's talking on Skype like Toronzo Cannon did, but the phone's the next best thing. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave to ask the first couple of questions because I know you and Billy not only know each other, but you've also performed together. You've been bandmates here and there throughout the years. So I'm sure you have a lot of good stories and questions for Billy. So why don't you take over first there, Dave?
Well, I appreciate that. Well, first off, hi, Bill. How you doing? We've established we're all doing okay, but I don't even know where to start with you, Bill. We could talk for hours, but a lot of people out there have heard you, but don't really know that it was you. I mean, you've played with so many people and recorded with so many people. Kind of want to get a feel out for the audience of who the people that were really important that you've played with, and I mean, basically everybody is in the long run, but the names they would maybe recognize, or at least recognize their performances. We could even start out with Jimmy Dawkins and Willie Kent. I mean, those are two very big Chicago names. Just give us a feel for where you've been, Bill.
Well, I played with, first of all, Jimmy Dawkins helped me. It really was inspirational to me in helping me get my start. And after that was Johnny Littlejohn and Jimmy Rogers and Mighty Joe Young. They were very helpful to me, getting me started and making me realize that actually I could do what they're doing. I never dreamed that I would, ever be doing what I did. But Junior Wells, Otis Rush, Dusty Brown. I did a couple things with Buddy Guy. I helped put a band together to back him up for his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Blues Music Awards. I guess there's so many people and that names that might be forgotten. by some, including me. The legendary blues man too. I have to mention Kenny Smith's father, Willie Big Eye Smith, and Calvin Jones and Pine Top. For a while, I was actually Pine Top's guitar player. He called me for a lot of gigs, when he left the legendary. So that was a thrill to play with him.
Yeah. No, you're talking all the very, very important people to Chicago blues. I mean, there's a ton more. Might want to mention Jody Williams and Kim Wilson and people like that too.
And Sunnyland Slim, I did some work with Sunnyland with backing him up, which was a real thrill for me.
You have been the consummate sideman for so many years, and you and I don't even remember. I mean, I've known you for way longer than we've played together, and we only get to play together once in a while. But I do remember thinking to myself over all these years that, you should start your own band. I do remember coming to you with that and saying, "Hey, Bill, come on, let's do this." And it's just been a blast, Billy. It really has. I mean, we've had a lot of great players play with us, but Bob Strozier and Kenny Smith come to mind first. And it's just like old home week when we get together. It's really fun. And how does it feel to be the front man compared to the side man, the backup?
Well, I like to think of what I'm doing as a little bit of everything, which is really cool. I get to be a side man. I get to be a leader. I get to record. I got to play live. So that, it's a little bit of everything. But I think that a lot of times that, when I'm playing behind somebody, I'm really concentrating on what they're doing, and I'm trying to feel them out. So I don't look maybe like I'm, having the time of my life, but actually I'm just really concentrated. But when I do my own shows, I get to really be me and step out and, really communicate with the people and basically play for them, directly from me to them. And as you know, we had some really, really great times. And I appreciate you, with the super sessions too. We've had a lot of great lineups.
Yeah. Well, for people who don't know, the Chicago Blues Super Session is just like a gift to all of us on stage. The core lineup is Billy Flynn, Bob Strozier, Kenny Smith, Johnson, Farr, John Katke, Melvin Smith, Amy Lowe, and myself. And sometimes there's interchanging members. Sometimes we Bell with us. Sometimes, Tommy Holland has been with us a couple times. But
little Ed.
Unfortunately, we don't get to do that too often because COVID has stopped everybody from playing. But even when we were pre-COVID, PC, it's hard to get all those people in one place at one time, But when we do, we have a ball. It's great. It's a magic time, But a lot of people also don't know your involvement with Cadillac Records, and that you actually won a Grammy on that. Talk about that a bit.
Well, the Grammy came from the recording the soundtrack, the particular cut that I did with Beyonce, which was an old Etta James song, "At Last." Which was right. Yeah. The Grammy came from the R&B single of the year, which won the award. The movie, I believe, was nominated also. And that was basically a story about Chess Records, which I did most of the guitar playing on it. The lead guitar playing was Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters, and we had Hubert Sumlin in the studio with us too. So he played on some of the tracks that we did by Howlin' Wolf for the movie also.
So I gotta interject here because first of all, Billy, you won a Grammy, and it always helps if you play with Beyonce if you're going to win a Grammy, probably, right? Because
too shabby, huh?
that's a good in. But how did you get on that movie? I mean, how did you, obviously, with your legendary status in the blues scene and all that, but I mean, how did that whole thing come about? Because I mean, you're talking about all of these people, and you're about playing on the on Cadillac Records on the soundtrack and everything. I mean, how were you approached to get on that?
Well, the producer's Steve Jordan, the drummer,
Okay, sure, yeah.
and what he had heard about me, originally with the Muddy Waters Association, that I had played with the legendary blues band and was
Hmm.
highly recommended for the job, and at playing the Muddy Waters music. And Kim Wilson, we recently were playing together, and somebody yelled out in the crowd to play some Chuck Berry, and we did a song by Chuck Berry, "Living in the USA," and I think this must have went on for 15, 20 minutes. I think I even did the duck walk, and and, uh, and it went over real well. So at that point, he said, "Well, we got Billy Flynn. He can do Muddy Waters, but man, you should hear him do Chuck Berry. That's one of his heroes. So really can really do the Chuck Berry stuff."
Hmm.
And so that's how that came about. But when they sent me a demo for the recordings of what I had to learn at the time, and on there was 4 or 5 songs by Etta James. Now I was familiar with Etta James back from the earlier era, modern records like "Roll with Me, Henry," but I wasn't familiar with that last, and I knew about it, but I
Hmm.
just didn't. So I went to work on that music, not knowing that they were going to use me on it. And
Mm.
I wrote out charts, which I really have a hard time reading music, but I wrote out some chord charts for the songs, which were like in the key of A flat and F sharp, and
Hmm.
very unusual keys, and a lot of ballads and things that she was doing. So when we got there, we did the Chuck Berry, we did the Muddy Waters, we did the Howlin' Wolf, and he said, "Well, tomorrow we are going to be doing Etta James." I said, "Okay." I was ready for it,
Uh-huh.
and not knowing that actually, they were hoping that I could do it, and that's where the Grammy and the hard work that 2 weeks that I put into it, just basically living with the songs. And when I went back to the hotel room after that, I took out my guitar, took out the music, took out the CD, and I just like worked and worked and worked on it, and had to change the key again because he had dropped everything uh, a half a step, so I had to rearrange it too. So, but all in all, it was a whole week of recording in New York City.
Hmm.
It was a really a great time for me.
Well, and those tunes, the Etta James tunes, I know from the jazz standpoint, I've played a lot. Those are not easy songs. It sounds easy when you're listening to it, but when you really break it down, it's kind of
Oh yeah,
those are tough tunes, really.
they you're right, Mike. They especially when we cut it, there wasn't a piano there, and so
Oh man.
really, as far as like feeling and hearing the changes, there was none of that. You had to have an internal, like mechanism to keep you on track at all times.
Wow. Wow. Well, I remember, and Dave, I'm going to jump in a little bit more here because now I'm
No problem,
curious,
man.
but
I like listening.
I think it would be good for a lot of our casual listeners that are watching this show. And you and I had a great discussion about it when you and I did a little quick 15-minute interview at the front porch stage last year at the Chicago Blues Fest, which was great. You and I could have talked for like 3 hours, but I think it'd be interesting. I mean, how did you first come into Chicago? Because I mean, you're only from Wisconsin, right? So I mean, how do you come from Wisconsin and all of a sudden come into Chicago and play with all of these legendary guys? They would accept you right away when you first showed up. I mean, or was it kind of like, who's this guy? Maybe we'll let him come up on stage. Who was the first guy you actually maybe sat in with?
Well, actually, the first guy was Jimmy Dawkins, and I grew up in Wisconsin, and there was a club called Clark Kent Super Joint, which is a brand new club, which was had 7 days of the week they had Chicago blues. The first week was
Wow.
Jimmy Dawkins. The next week was Johnny Littlejohn with somebody that wasn't even on the bill, but his name was Jimmy Rogers. So, I mean, we would hang out with them. Me and my brother would go over to where they stayed, and like to be accepted. I mean, I never saw anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting out in back with my guitar the first week behind the club, and I remember there was a song that came on the jukebox, "Why Sing the Blues" by B.B. King. And I was back there playing it, and Lester Dorsey, who is Jimmy Dawkins' drummer, came out and said, "Hey, how come you don't come in? You sound good." And I said, "Well, I'm only 14 years old. I can't get in here." And he said, "Well, I'm gonna hold it." And he came and got Jimmy Dawkins, and that's the first time I saw Jimmy. And he said, "Well, you want to come in?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to play with you." And he said, "Well, I'm gonna go talk to the club owner." And brought the club owner out, and he said, "Well, you can come in if you don't drink." So I just sat there waiting to go on stage, and basically after that, his vocalist, Big Voice Odom, asked me to come to Chicago and record with him, and I was like, "Well, I don't really know how to pursue that at the time, but they were so encouraging, and one after another, I got to meet him, Luther Allison, and a lot of the, Bob Reedy, he was a great band leader in Chicago. I got to meet all these musicians, and they were so encouraging to me, and I was like, wow, Chicago was something that was always calling to me. I felt a real connection to Chicago, and later on, I realized that, well, people around the world, I mean, like in Japan and Europe and, all over, they love the blues, and look at how far that is. To me, I can get in my car and I can be in Chicago in a relatively short time. So to me, the world was kind of small in that way, that I eventually made it to Chicago because my brother was working there. He had a job, so I would visit him, and we'd go to every blues club, and I got to see all these great musicians and meet them also.
Well, you had probably something where those blues musicians accepted you because they're like, okay, this kid has something and he's taking this seriously. Because I mean, that's that era too, right? Wasn't it that era where, I mean, and it still happens now to a certain extent, but I mean, back then, I mean, every club was hopping 7 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
People were playing. People could actually be a musician for a living, like playing steady gigs on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
And they were giving though, right? So I mean, you walking in and talking to them, they were trying to pass the tradition down because they knew that you were serious about it, probably.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, there was another side to that too. And Billy and I are basically the same age. I'm all of 5 or 6 days older, but we came out of the same era. And with the old guys and the genuine guys, you had to earn your keep, and you had to be respectful. And if you weren't on stage, they would not hesitate to make sure that everybody in the audience knew that you didn't know your shit. Excuse me.
That's right.
I should say. No. But didn't know your stuff. And they wouldn't be so kind and giving if you were messing up. They basically tell you to get off the stage in whatever fashion they wanted. That's a good point. But then, more than likely, they would give you another chance, but you only got like 1 or 2, possibly 3 chances to prove yourself. So you had to go do your homework. It wasn't like it wasn't easy. Everyone was giving, but giving with conditions, and that certainly made me be conscious of becoming a better player. I'm sure it did to you too, Bill. I mean, come on.
Well, that's a really good point that you brought up too. Is that that what I learned from them, at the time, was about being a professional and how they respected their job and they respected their audience, and they considered this to be a job. It wasn't like being in a band, like, hey man, I want to be in a band. It was like, you really have a lot of responsibility, and immediately I learned that from them. And even at that time, 14 years old, I was actually a leader of a band. I had my old band called the Blues Express, and we had a booking agent. We played all over Michigan and the northern Wisconsin. So I was already into it, but I further learned a lot from. I mean, man, just so much from I had met Howlin' Wolf that same year, you know, and BB King. So, like, I mean, I had a lot of experience talking to them, and what they tried to help me with, what they were saying, you know.
Who was the
They were
first who was that first gig that you had that was like a steady where you're like, okay, I'm gonna be a professional musician. I'm on this gig. This is like my job now, and it's the serious business now. You're playing all the time with this one specific group. Who was that first guy?
Well, it's, you know, actually goes a little before that, because I would when Lawrence Welk would come on, I didn't see, but I didn't originally start on the guitar because I was too small. I had a ukulele, so when Lawrence Welk would come on, I was acting, you know, like this was my job. I would sit in front of the television and I would play with him. I mean, it's funny. Just like years later, I was just thinking of that, and I was like, "This is the same thing I'm doing. I'm up here playing for a wedding, whatever." I was already there before I did that, but
Yeah, wow.
you know, you know, through the years, I played with country and western bands. But the first band that I played with, I guess, would be as far as a touring band would be Brian Lee. He actually hired me as a harmonica player. I played harp with him because he already had a guitar player, but we got along so well, and just hit it off.
Brian from New Orleans. Brian Lee from New Orleans.
Yeah, you know, he's originally from Wisconsin, so he was working quite a bit, and he brought me into the band. So I would say the first band that you know, that I actually was like, after I got out of school, you know, after out of high school, that was one of the first bands. And not too long after that, I got a call from Jimmy Dawkins, and he, you know, we reconnected after meeting a few years earlier, and went on the road with Jimmy, and that basically lasted his whole lifetime. You know, we I did a lot of gigs. I mean, Jimmy had other guitar players and used other people, but we always, even right up to the end at Smoke Daddy, I had him during the Blues Fest one year come in. I believe that was his last gig that he did.
Wow.
It was. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, and playing with somebody like that, that's just got to change that's got to change your entire perspective on playing over the years, right? So I mean, you play with these legendary guys and it passes down to you. I mean, that's got to just change the whole way you look at your instrument when you get and you're playing consistently with somebody like that, right? It's not just a one-off, but when you're really with somebody like that on a consistent basis, I mean, how does that open up your playing, open up your creativity? Because it's got to be, you know, on a regular basis. That's the key that people don't get anymore, is that regular, steady touring kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, that's really a good question, because of the, you know, when I was on stage with Jimmy Dawkins or Otis Rush, Hubert Sumlin or James Wheeler, I would look at them over next on the other side of the stage, and I would go, man, that's some beautiful sounding guitar coming out of that amplifier. How come you can't get that? You know, and I had to go to the drawing board, you know, and refine what I did, you know, even though I knew the notes and the chords, whatever, just to have that, what I call a professional sound. I wanted to really have a real clean, professional sound. And when I would hear these guys, Little Smoky Smothers was another one. We worked together in the legendary blues band, and these guys had beautiful tone. I mean, and they were playing their whole life long, you know, and I was trying my best, but I definitely wanted to sound good when right next to them, you know, not to necessarily sound like them, but I had to sound good. So that's a good question you made, you know, and night after night, you know, you learn a lot.
Yeah. And I can remember when
I want to jump in on this.
Go ahead.
Hold on, Mike. You know, I've been playing all my life too. I played a lot of different styles of music, things like that. I always played blues. But in the years I've been playing with Billy Flynn when we can, Billy Flynn has made me a considerably better guitar player and taught me some control things and sharing airspace kind of things that are very subtle but very important to what he calls the professional sound. And I can never thank Billy enough, honestly, for making me a better guitar player. So just wanted to throw that out there to you, Bill.
Well,
Thank you, Dave.
well, and
Yeah, means a lot.
this kind of goes back to both of you guys. And Billy, I remember you and I talking about this, and when I was interviewing you. But I think it's interesting because you're talking about playing with somebody on a consistent basis and traveling with them and all that. But I remember talking to you about this, and I've talked to a lot of different musicians, especially with the stature of you, who've played everywhere and toured all over the world with all these different musicians. But it's so important because as a side person, as Dave brought up at the beginning, as a side man, your whole goal, even though you could rip, you could play solos, you could do everything. But I remember you telling me this, and I want you to expand on it. Maybe Dave can jump in on it too, is that the whole purpose of your purpose of being on stage with that person is to make them sound good and to blend in and accent and accentuate what they're doing. That's your whole purpose of being and playing with other guys as a sideman. Isn't that right? I mean, both of you guys have done this kind of stuff. It's a hard thing to be able to do on a masterful level because some guys want to overplay, some guys don't know what to play, some guys get in the way, some guys, play too much, all that stuff. So talk a little bit about how important that is.
Well, I think it's, like I wanted to be a musician, and to me, like being a musician was about when I go to a particular engagement or a gig that I'm going to be there with a certain performer. I know about them. I know what they're doing, and I want the show to be the best it can be. I want the audience to be happy. I want the sound people to be happy. I want everybody to make that job smooth. If the drummer drops a stick, I'll go pick it up for him. Whatever. If somebody trips over a mic stand, I mean, I'm there. I kind of like was thinking, this is my role in the whole thing was to make something click, and not only musically but everything behind it,
Mm-hmm. Dave, what do you have to input on that? I'm sure you've done the same. I mean, you've played with so many different people. I mean, just being able to, blend in, right?
Well, yeah, I have a kind of abstract take on that in the sense that I spent many, 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 many years mixing everybody and being able to separate instruments, with my ears. And I've learned on stage through all the time I spent as a sound person, and I toured the world. I worked 21 years with Buddy Guys as a sound person. Billy and I got to know each other real well when I was working there. Yeah, and he always made the sound man happy. And one thing I've learned as a sideman is to use my ears.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, use everything else too, but a very important, integral part of it is to use my ears and listen to where I fit and how to support the front person.
Yeah.
But Billy has taught me a lot about that too, and I appreciate that. And as a guitar player in most of the bands I was in, I was the one guitar player, and or it was a shared position, but I switched off on bass or something else. Another guitar player played harmonica too, so there was always a change up, and there was always one. I didn't have to leave as much space or integrate into as much space within the rhythms and things like that. I would work with the bass player and the drummer, but to work with a second main guitarist that is the main guitarist the whole night has taught me a lot more about the music. And the only way I found that I can really do it is with my ears.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey Dave, why don't you got a couple more for Billy here?
Yeah. Well, geez. Billy, how has the virtual performances been from your house? How have they been doing? Are you still doing those?
I did a few of them, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It was really different at first for me, but just being into the music with your eyes closed, not knowing that there's not an audience there, it felt really good to me. Like I could feel the people, to feel the audience and feel that I was playing for them. I enjoy that a lot. I got a lot of really great feedback from my friends and people that have seen me play too.
Well, some of us were out there playing along with you too. You know that. But yeah, at first I think everybody in when they're doing streaming for the first or the early part of it, it's a rearranging of how you structure your performance to the audience. Not seeing them is a really big thing, but then you're actually reaching a way larger audience too, and
True, yeah.
it's just a new do the same thing. So that's yeah. Yeah.
It is.
No,
So
I pretty much yeah. Go ahead.
no, I was going to jump in because I know I wanted to get your take too, Billy. I mean, we're in the middle of the COVID crisis. Obviously, all the festivals have been canceled and all of the touring's been canceled. And I know Dave and I always talk about this with a lot of our guests. So I figured as we wrap things up, I thought I'd find out from you. I mean, obviously you probably had, before all of this happened, you probably had a lot of gigs on the books, a lot of tours on the books, a lot of festivals, a lot of everything, because this is the time to do all that. And everything kind of went on a halt. And it looks like we're going to be in this situation for quite a while. But I mean, outside of the live streaming and everything, how are you, handling all this? You're up in Wisconsin. You're just kind of hunkered down, I would assume, right?
Yes, yes. Really, kind of just looking to see what's going to happen in the future. Right now, just stepping back and look at it and see what's going to happen. I mean, I don't think we all know how this is going to end, or if it is. So I'm just going to just take my time, to be, with my family. Be careful. I don't want anybody to be sick. I don't want me to be sick. And I think as a personal responsibility to the whole world, I want to do what I can to make it better.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, and really, I mean, as musicians, all of us are musicians. I mean, that's one of the things. This is one of those situations that's never happened before in really the history
Mm-hmm.
of the world, and it really affects the entertainers, the musicians, the clubs, the venues, the festivals, and it's not a good idea to get out and pack things, even if somebody might say that it is okay, because you just can't be too careful. And I think that the people that are super careful right now and are being socially distant and wearing their masks and hunkering down are going to help for us to get back sooner rather than later, because that's really the key to this entire situation. But I bet you, as somebody that's used to playing, hundreds of gigs a year, especially during, summer months, so you probably cranking all the time, because I remember Blues Fest. I think you played like 3 gigs in one day over there. but but
Well, at least, yeah.
but I mean, how have you enjoyed, outside of, I know you guys talked a little bit about live streaming, but it seems like to me that musicians are able to connect with more and more people now because they've had that time to kind of look at the technology when they didn't have the time before because they were always playing all the time. So have you found a ability to maybe connect with people that you haven't connected with in a long time just because of the fact that you're stuck in one place and you're connecting through
Yeah.
social media?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the musicians that I have worked with, we talk together and try to figure out what the next move is going to be, and things like that. But I think right now it's basically that just a wait and see situation, for me personally, and hope for the best. But
Yeah.
there's also like I said before, being enjoying having to enjoy so many different things, being inside man, doing the
Hmm.
either being a leader, being everything. I love playing for people. I love to entertain people, and I love to be a side man to help the front man be an entertainer. But at the same time, I could sit in the hotel room, which I have many, many, many years. I have sit in the hotel room where I have days off where I'll just play my guitar, and I can feel every note I play, and I feel like I just close my eyes and I'm there. So I'm really thankful that I have that ability, that I don't need to be, performing all the time, where I can just enjoy. Dave, I know you're the same way. You love the guitar.
Yeah.
It's when you get in the room and you take your guitar out of the case. Matter of fact, when I was on the road, before I did anything, my guitar came out. I laid it on the bed and just would look at it. It would call to me. So I enjoy it so much. So that's given me a huge peace of mind, and also I have to say that my wife Mary is such a beautiful person, and she's so we get along so well. We have a great life together. That's so much to fall
She's
back
a sweetheart.
on. I mean, I'm blessed with that. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know,
Those two are lovebirds. Definitely
Like you and
lovebirds.
Amy.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky too. Yeah.
well, hey, Billy, I really appreciate you jumping on today and talking with Dave and
Thank
I. I
you.
know you and Dave are longtime friends, and I know you and I have met a couple times. And every time I get to talk to you, it's an absolute pleasure for me. And I think everyone listening probably really enjoyed what we were talking about today. So I appreciate you jumping on to Chicago Music Revealed, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll get to see you actually in person playing for us again on a stage. But until then, I'm going to tell everybody they need to go over to billyflynn.com and check that out. And then you have links over to your social media as well. So when you do something live stream, people can find you over there on Facebook and all that other good stuff to stay connected until we can all be back into a venue or festival somewhere soon.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. It was
Well,
our
I'm interested to
pleasure.
play with you, Bill. I'm
well,
missing playing with you, man.
You too. You too.
All right.
Yes,
Hopefully we'll do it again.
Absolutely. I'm
we
sure you
will.
guys
We will.
All right. Take care.
All
Take
right,
care,
Bill.
Billy. Appreciate it.
Talk to
Take
you
care.
soon, man.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye.
All right. That was a good
All
one,
right.
Dave. There you go.
Hey, they're all good. This has been a
know,
blast. I got to tell you. And I just want more people to hear it. And every time now, Billy's go out there and tell all his friends about it, and every week all the blues guys are going to just make it bigger and bigger. So, and gals,
That's right. That's
so
right. Oh, it's
a
growing.
process.
We're getting some good views, some good listens on our podcast and all that good stuff. So this is getting out there, and as it, I mean, and as I was just talking to Billy about it, and as I say all the time, I mean, there's such a wealth of information from a lot of these artists, and a lot of people now are in a position where they're not running from gig to gig, unfortunately, but they're not running from gig to gig. They're not running from student to student. And a lot of the music fans are stuck and they're looking to consume stuff. And that's why I started doing this show. And by the way, I have to mention, this is episode 70, by the way, of Chicago Music Revealed. So
isn't that incredible? Didn't we just start this
70.
like last week?
Yeah, well, man, I'm telling you, episode 70. So I've made it to episode 70. You've joined on the Fridays, and it's been a blast. But before we get out of here, you said you've got a couple of hits here that we need to talk about right at the end.
Yeah, just a little bit of sort of news. I just, you're a drummer, and you know how hard real blues drumming is. I mean, it cannot be written. There, the style of lump to lump, which was made up by Fred Belo and Willie Smith, is a hesitant beat, but you can't write it. You can't write it.
It's like, well, it's like
it's
like a Latin feel. People can play a bossa nova and a samba. When you sit down with somebody from Brazil, you hear a difference.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, and in light of that, Kenny Smith, the son of Willie Big Eye Smith, Kenny Beady Eye Smith, is doing drum lessons on beadyeyes.com. And for all the blues drummers out there, this is the guy you got to go online and listen to, because he was raised, in the house around Muddy Waters and the Willie Smith and Fuzzy and all the Muddy Waters band and everybody who came to hang out. This is where Kenny grew up, and it is in his DNA. And not to mention that he's also a very personable guy and gets the information across in a really good way. I'm working to get him hopefully on next week's interview. Well, it's going to be in the future soon, and I think I got to not just take care of guitar players. I got to be honest. I'd love to have all my
Yeah, we
friends
need some
guitar players
drummers
out, but
around here, man. Come on, we need some drummers. Let's go.
I did get a harmonica player in there, but we got to cover it all. Get some keyboard players and everything like that. There's so many amazing musicians in Chicago
There are.
and in the country that we can touch base with technology, and we're going to go for the best of the best. And I just hope that everybody gets the word out there on, first off, your 5 days a week, but also the Friday with Blues in Chicago and beyond.
Yep.
So, it's just a ball. And of course, Jimmy Johnson and John Primer are still doing their weekend shows. So go to their websites, and it's just been great. And that's really all I got for you.
Well,
this
good.
Week,
Yeah. And, I'm glad Kenny's teaching online because, Kenny is one of those guys, and I've interviewed him a couple times. I've known him for years because of the Blues Fest and everything. First of all, he's a sweetheart. He's a super great guy, but he's he's a world-class drummer. He's won Grammys, and he's here in Chicago, and he also works heavily with schools in normal times.
Yes.
He's doing a
Yes.
lot of educational stuff in schools and everything else. So Kenny's been
He
giving
sure
back for
is.
years. So the fact that he's doing online teaching, I'd love to have him on so we can talk about that and talk about the ins and outs. And of course, everybody needs to set their calendar when we do get Kenny, because it will be a 4-hour drum discussion. We might, it's gonna we'll start off
Actually,
with the hi-hat pedal and move our way to the ride cymbal.
Right. Well, actually, I have a lot to add to that. I worked at Frank's Drum Shop. I think I told you.
Oh,
that.
you told me that.
But
Yeah,
I
that's
bet
right, man.
I bet all the drummers,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I have a very good grasp of drumming for a guitar player.
Well,
So
then we could tell Barrett Deems stories for another 2 hours about
oh,
Barrett
there you go.
Everybody
More
remembers
LaShawn
Barrett.
stories. Yeah, who can't? Yeah, no
All
kidding.
right, so we've
All right, Mike.
so good. So we'll announce who we've got next Friday, hopefully on Monday or Tuesday. But I should mention that we've got coming up on Monday the great Orbert Davis, the founder of the Chicago Jazz Philharmonic. He's going to be on. He's doing some virtual summer camps, and he's always doing a lot of different things. So Orbert's going to be on Monday, and we have a whole host of different people next week. But put it on your calendar, Monday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, back here, Chicago Music Revealed. And, of course, next Friday, Chicago Blues and Beyond here on Chicago Music Revealed at 6 p.m. with special guest host Dave Katzman. Dave, have a great weekend. I'm going to sign off here.
You too.
All right, sir. And
okay, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Dave.
Stay.
And I want to also make sure that everyone remembers to check us out on, I'm trying to do all my stuff here. Check us out on ChicagoMusicRevealed.com, ChicagoJazz.com, ChicagoJazzMagazine.com, and all of our social media platforms. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. All of these recordings, all of these videos get turned into a podcast, and you can find them on the Chicago Jazz Audio Experience. TuneIn Radio, we're up there. Apple Music, Google Play, everywhere you can find a podcast, just search for Chicago Jazz Audio Experience. We will come up. I appreciate everyone checking this out. I appreciate everyone watching, everyone listening, everyone staying safe, everyone staying healthy, everyone staying away from each other. Let's get out of this COVID situation. The only way we can do that is working together. As I always say, thank you for listening, watching. Please share, please like, please comment. Tell your neighbors, tell your family, call the grandkids. Monday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be back with Orbert Davis. Stay safe this weekend. I will see you on the next broadcast.